Hello everybody. The month of June, and yes, early July, stands to be really intense as we're experiencing a deepening Jupiter-Pluto conjunction that coincides with 3 eclipses. I'm going to talk to you about the second of those eclipses here in a moment. But as a sign of support during these very powerful and deeply transformational times, I'm offering regular reduced rates on my astrological services on what are called payment by donation offers, right? And these are rotating, so there's a different one usually each week. So I just wanted to let you know that, because if you're needing a little bit of extra support during this time, chances are you can schedule in with me at a rate that's more affordable to you, and you can do that through my astrological services page, which you will find linked above. So we had a lunar eclipse on the 5th of June, and that took place in Ardra Nakshatra. And we're approaching on the 21st of this month a solar eclipse that takes place on the solstice. That's a very powerful symbol as well. And if we take that a step further, it's going to end with another lunar eclipse on the 5th of July, just a day after Independence Day. Now, it's really interesting because the last time that Jupiter and Pluto conjuncted each other in Ardra Nakshatra, which is where they're now transiting, was in the years that led up to the American Revolutionary War. I think it was like 1773. I'm not exactly sure of the year, but I remember it's a few years before 1776. And here we are in the middle of a month where we're going to have a solar eclipse on the longest day of the year. That's when the sun in the northern hemisphere, for us folks up here, and different for those of you down under, is at its highest. For those of you down under, well, it's at its lowest visibility, right? So the sun's at its highest, as I'm sure many of you know, during the summer solstice. It's the longest day of the year. But for those in the southern hemisphere, it's the shortest day of the year. Either way, there's going to be some special symbolism for you in either of those circumstances. It marks a pivotal point, because what happens at the sun's journey as it goes back and forth from winter solstice to summer solstice, regardless of which hemisphere you live in, it's a pivotal point where the sun begins to turn back around and go in the opposite direction. At the time that that's happening, the sun is eclipsed. That brings, especially in the northern hemisphere where there's a lot of very radical stuff going on, most especially in the States, it brings a very powerful, highly focused energy into the equation. This is one of those, hey, look at me, pay attention moments, right? And if you weren't paying attention, you're probably going to be paying attention before much longer, right? And so in addition to that, this eclipse cycle ends on the 5th of July, which is obviously the day after Independence Day. And I think that there's some very important symbolism that the universe is kind of, dropping hints, or maybe it's shouting hints at people to look out for. So mixed in with this approaching eclipse, and if you want to know more about the previous eclipse that happened, I'll point to a link in my video up above, so that will take you to the video that I did on the lunar eclipse. So the first eclipse, which was a lunar eclipse, and this eclipse, which is a solar eclipse, they're both taking place in what are called Tikshna and Daruna Nakshatras, right? Which means sharp and hard or harsh, right? The sharp nakshatras have a tendency to make things feel, and equally to create experiences of things teetering on the brink. I like using the analogy of walking the razor's edge, and we're definitely experiencing some very powerful energy in alignment with that. The last of these eclipses happens in Punarvasu Nakshatra on the 5th of July, and Ardra Nakshatra is an Ugra and a Krura Nakshatra, which means a cruel and intense or a cruel and violent planet. Does that mean we're going to experience more violence globally? Well, I certainly hope not, but we're definitely experiencing a lot of intensity right now in a highly revolutionary manner. And a lot of what this energy boils down to is the concept of support and sanctity. Okay? So in one area of your life or another, and of course we're all experiencing this globally, but it's also very personal to each of us in a particular area of life, dependent upon where these eclipses are falling in our horoscope. And once again, if you want more information on that, you can schedule through my Astrological Services page linked above. But wherever this eclipse is impacting in our horoscope, those are the areas of life that are going to be affected. And in those areas, there's a question of feeling as if your something that was very sacred to you has been violated. As a result of that particular experience, you're feeling unsupported, and in a certain manner, you were waiting and trying to give time for things to develop in a manner that was going to be satisfactory, that was going to suit your situation. So in short, even though you may have felt unsupported or as if your sanctity was being violated or something that was sacred to you was being violated, you were willing to be patient with things, right? If we look at this on the global scale, it can be attributed to so many different things. It can be attributed to, what we've been experiencing with this global pandemic that's been going on. It can be related to your political beliefs or your government. It can be related to so many different things, right? But in one area of your life or another, you're not feeling supported. You're not feeling supported by someone or something that you were trusting to take care of you. As a matter of fact, that person or that organization or that corporation or whatever it might be was going completely in the opposite direction, and rather than supporting you, it was actually doing something that was, well, you feel at the very least violating your trust. And when you're in that particular position, there's no question that you feel that you have to take some necessary steps to begin to create some change in one area of your life or another, right? It's not acceptable when your needs aren't being met. You were patient with this process, about as patient as somebody can be. And now you're feeling on a certain level like, okay, well, now's the time to do something about it. And so as you're feeling a need to do something about it because, well, your dignity's been impacted, your pride has been hurt, and on a certain level, you just feel like it's kind of reached a point where enough is enough and too much is too much. So obviously, you're going to feel a great deal of anger. And, I'm not one of those people who's going to tell you, oh, don't feel anger, it's unspiritual. Don't feel sadness, it's unspiritual. Everything in the world is spiritual. Every experience that you can have is spiritual. But what you do with that energy, determines how you're working with it, right? And does that mean you need to not take action? Does that mean you need to not be firm and do something about a situation where you've really just been I guess you kind of feel like you've just been kind of consigned to being a nobody and somebody who's not important? No, you definitely need to do something about it. But the thing is sometimes we can get so wrapped up in that doing. And there's a quality of that with Ardra Nakshatra, which is where this solar eclipse is taking place, that we get caught up in the doing to the extent that we miss something else. And I know you're kind of getting tired probably of new things being revealed over and over again, because it's definitely been a year of that too, where things are constantly being revealed, right? And you look back at the course of your life And over the course of your life, you can't really, recall too many instances where you found yourself in this particular position. This is definitely a unique situation. Even if you've experienced other tragedies and things going on in your life, whatever the particular set of conditions might be for you personally, this is definitely a unique circumstance for you as you look back at things. And so with that feeling that this isn't really acceptable for me, then you're taking that energy and you're pouring it into change, but beneath the surface, because you're focused in one direction, there's something that you're missing, right? There's something that you're missing. And it's, as I was saying, it's been a constant year of things like being revealed. You think things are one way, something else shows it to be another way. You think things are that way, something else shows it to be another way. And guess what? Well, the story's not really over yet. And I do hate to say that to you. But be aware of how focused you become on your anger, how focused you become on your rage, that you miss the bigger picture. And there's definitely a quality of that to this present energy. You can find yourself, because this eclipse that we're going to experience on the 21st is aspected by Mars in Uttara Bhadrapada Nakshatra, which is very passionate energy. And Uttara Bhadrapada Nakshatra is a Kshatriya Nakshatra. So it wants to champion a cause. When that's influencing that Ardra Nakshatra energy, things can bubble to the surface. And whilst one pointed focus can certainly accomplish a lot, one pointed focus has a tendency to miss what's going on around it because it's got the blinders on, because it's dealing with a particular situation. And sometimes, I'm not meaning to say things to make you feel suspicious or anything like that, but sometimes there are people who want you to not notice what's going on around you. Because when your attention is fixed in a certain direction, other things can happen, right? It's like, when you were, I don't know how many of you had this experience growing up. I know that definitely happened in my household, is that, one person would distract mom and dad's attention while the other child would, kind of go do something else, maybe as a surprise, or, even sometimes being naughty. People would do things like that. But there's definitely a quality of needing to pay attention to what's going on in your environment. Because the more focused you become on one pointed determination, that's the moment that you're going to miss an opportunity to see things from a clearer perspective. Again, as I was saying around the 5th of June with the earlier eclipse video, and I know it sounds like a repetitive tape loop, the full picture is not available to you right now. In whatever area of your life this might relate to, the full picture is not available. More is to be revealed. So keep your awareness about you. Keep your wits about you. Keep your eyes open. Be honest in your personal interactions in whatever way this is impacting your own personal situation. This is asking you to be more expressive, to be more forthright, to, don't gloss over situations, right? You can avoid being placed in scenarios where something isn't going the way you want it to go, or equally you can sometimes avoid being in scenarios where your trust is violated if you're a little clearer about what you need. You may actually find in a certain area of your life on the personal level that what you're experiencing now, it may be that the other person or the other entity had no desire to violate your trust. Maybe they weren't clear about what your needs were or what your boundaries were, right? In either way, this is a huge cosmic reset point. On the global level, we're all being asked to awaken, pay attention, put energy towards those changes that we want to create. But as we're creating those changes, don't be blind to everything else that's going on around you. Sometimes you can be so one-pointedly focused on being aware and being awake that you actually act out of ignorance, right? Because awakening and awareness is a gradual process. It's something that's meant to happen a little bit at a time so that you can digest things a little bit at a time. And when things are rising to the surface very quickly, as we would be experiencing with this particular solar eclipse, because it's happening in close proximity to Rahu, which is in Ardra, and wherever Rahu goes, you're going to be experiencing that Ketu energy, which is in Mula. It's asking you to take things a step at a time. Too far, too fast, spills over the edge and goes over the brink, right? Gradual awareness, gradual change, gradual focus, but strong determination is what will now turn the tide for you. So if you'd like a little bit of help in terms with however this energy might be impacting your own personal situation, I do want to mention once again that I do offer several different levels of astrological service. All of these are available through my astrological services page, which you will find linked above. On a more personal note, I'm finding myself getting so tongue twisted these days. It's just really, really crazy. I think I need to get out and interact more. But over here where I'm at now, well, we're still, kind of, things aren't open yet, right? So it's going a little bit stir crazy with wanting to get out and do things. So you can do me a big favor by being a little more social down in the comments section, which you will find linked, not linked below, but in the section below. So that's going to do it for this look at the solstice solar eclipse, which obviously takes place on the 21st of June 2020. Until next time, please do take the very best care of yourself. Bye now.